You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
Likes for me to jump in the pool live on the air. Let's get into it with the lead. Whoa, we got a new intro, and we are live from Circa Stadia Swim in Las Vegas. We've taken the Sports Closet studio, and we've brought it on the road for the 2024 NHL Draft. Welcome in to Oilers Nation Everyday. And yeah, the backdrop is pretty cool. Am I kidding about setting a light goal and jumping into the pool live on the air? I'm not at all. To help me discuss maybe what the light goal should be and how we should make that work, let's bring it back up to E-Town. Where's my boy Liam at? Liam, hello.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. The weather is probably not as nice as it is there, but it's a beautiful day here in Edmonton after what was literally and figuratively the gloomiest day ever.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. Do you want to take a guess at what the weather is right now in Las Vegas?
38.
You're low. It's 40 right now, and I'm doing the show outdoors with no AC. Not a fan blowing on me or anything. I might die at any point on this show. We're going to talk off-season. It was locker room cleanout day. Gregor's going to join us in about 15 minutes time as well. So we got a lot of stuff on the go today. A lot of really interesting quotes from locker room cleanout day as well. But Liam, I will jump in the pool live on the air. But there are two ways we can go about doing this. We have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday where I'm doing the show from this spot in Vegas. Should we do something like if we hit 200 likes every show, I'll end the show Friday by jumping in? Or should we try to do like if any show hits 300, then I'll jump in?
Let's try and hit 200 today. We'll see what how the tone is set. Because you might get it today if the people really want it.
Okay, so let's do the 200 every day. If we can hit 200 likes every day, I will end Friday's show jumping into the pool, and we'll have a good time. But obviously, we are out of playoff mode. We are into draft and off-season mode, and this is our first chance doing the show together, Liam, since the Oilers were eliminated. I obviously did my therapy session, then you handled the rest of the show yesterday. But what were the vibes like yesterday with you, Coombsy, and Zach?
Obviously disappointment after what happened, but I think it's fair to say everyone was proud of what the team was able to accomplish this season after where they were, and just optimistic about what was happening too, like with the future and all that stuff. Like Dan had a good quote. It's like, it's the hope that'll kill you, but the hope will never die. And I think in comparison to what the 2006 run was, it was very different, right? Because obviously the team didn't have guys like McDavid and Draisaitl, where now you get comments from Draisaitl today saying how much he loves to be an Oiler. Gives you real hope that this team isn't too far away from going right back to where they were and hopefully getting a better outcome one day.
Yeah, and like we're going to talk about some of the big quotes that came out of locker room cleanout day in a little bit here. But one of them, like Warren Foegele brought up, it's now been 4 years in a row that this team has lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champion. That's not insignificant, man. Like this team is right there. And in 2006, it was random, right? It was a team that had no business going on that run, but they had 12 to 14 guys who played the absolute best hockey of their lives. And I don't know, you could, in hindsight, and in the moment, you obviously wanted to believe, and as an Oilers fan back in 06, that they could do it again. But in hindsight, it was like, we really shouldn't have expected that team to go on another deep run. That's not the same right now, right? Like, it's a good core. It's an offseason where they can make some changes, and they will make some changes. And this team has they will have every opportunity to get back to that point, and that point being a Stanley Cup Final next season. So, I mean, yeah, Lance says in the chat, we're there. Dare I say, Cup year 2025. Like, again, there were a lot of points this year where I disagreed with Lance and the whole Cup year kind of thing, right? Now that they've been there, there's no more doubt that this team can't do it. There is a belief in that room. There is a belief in the fan base. We can taste it. We can feel it. The proof is now out there. The Oilers can win a Stanley Cup. They came 1 goal maybe away from winning it all. They were that close, and it wasn't an accident. I know people will sit there and say, LA sucked, Vancouver was missing this piece, Dallas was worn down because of who they had to go through. Like, I don't know. I'm not buying it. I don't think LA is going to be like a major improvement next year. I think Vancouver got a lot of PDO luck this season. They might not be as good. Like, the path is not going to be astronomically more difficult for the Oilers next season. There is a lot of belief, and there should be a lot of belief.
Yeah, I think so too. I kind of mentioned that on the show yesterday as well, of just where other teams might be. I could really see Vancouver being what the Oilers were in 2018 and what New Jersey were this year.
Yep.
Needs to learn a little bit from from trying to be consistent winners, but you look at teams like Vegas, they're going to be a good team again. But I think the Oilers are just going to be as good, if not better. Like you said, there's an opportunity for them to add new pieces. And I actually think that's quite important that they do add some new players to this group next year. You don't have to rip apart the core by any means, but around the outside. And I say that because of what you just said there. They've lost 3 years in a row to the Cup champs with basically the same team. And I'm not saying they can't do it if they try to run it back again, but also maybe throw a little bit of something new towards these teams as well to try and get yourself over that line, because you don't want to be 4 years in a row of losing to the Cup champs because you didn't change anything.
Yeah. Hammer that like button in the YouTube chat as well. I'll jump in the pool if we get to 200 every show this week. All right. Our coverage of the NHL draft is brought to you by Fountain Tire. They are more than just tires. They offer a wide range of auto repair services from their expert mechanics. You can visit fountaintire.com to see all of the mechanical services that they offer. A big shout out to our friends at Fountain Tire for hopping on and staying on here with the show coming out of the playoffs. And hey, we got a lot of stuff to get through over these next couple of days. There are a lot of big question marks when it comes to this 2024-25 Oilers team and how they're going to look heading into next season, Liam. This is a week where Ken Holland's not here. He's not coming to Vegas. I think that right there, and I know Gregor had the tweet about he has a role if he wants one. I think it is how do I want to word this? I think it is a very perimeter role with the team. I don't think it would be a position where he has a lot of power. I think it would be more of an advisory role. I don't know if Ken Holland wants to continue working if that's the role. And I don't think the Oilers are going to keep him around in any sort of a POHO or general manager role. I think that change is coming, and I think the proof of that is, again, if there was mutual interest in him having a position of power, I think he would be here right now.
Yeah, I think him not being here really just speaks volumes to all of this. And it's actually quite interesting he's not here, if this could be his last year, for the idea of the final farewell for Ken in front of all his GM buddies, the last draft in this kind of environment too, because next year they're just going to go like an NFL style, I believe it's how it's going to look. But I wonder if this role, if he stays, will be what they've done with Ken Hitchcock, where Ken Hitchcock is like a special advisor to the head coach. And basically Ken Hitchcock lives in California or wherever it is that's hot. And Knobloch, whoever calls him whenever they need, and he'll send some advice back to them as well. I actually think he works quite closely with Bakersfield now that I say that, with just some help in there with Colin Chalk and his staff. But I just don't think it's, how do I word it? Like, keeping Holland around, I don't think it'd be the worst thing ever as a GM role. But I do think, again, this team needs a new look. I asked Zach and Kuhn this question yesterday, and I'm curious what you think, Ty. If Holland is done, which all indications would lead to that, what is his legacy in Edmonton?
His legacy is, and this is going to sound very harsh, if I had, like, the first word that came to my mind is failure. Listen, I'm not a massive anti-Ken Holland guy, and there are people who are running around on Twitter and whatnot right now being like, he didn't make one good move, and they're going, you can't credit him for the Zach Hyman thing because no one saw that coming. And if you're going to do that whole song and dance, then you can do it the other way. And you can sit there and say, well, no one saw Jack Campbell becoming a AHL goalie after what he did last year or that last season in Toronto. So I'm not totally against Ken Holland. He did a lot of really good things here. Getting Nuge done, getting Hyman here, the Stuart Skinner contract. I believe, and this might be viewed as a homer take right now, but I believe that a year from now, Stuart Skinner will be viewed as a top 10 goalie in the NHL, like without a doubt. He signed for $2.6 million for 2 more seasons. Ken Holland deserves praise for how he handled that, even if he butchered the Jack Campbell thing. Did Evander Kane fall into his lap, and did he eventually sign him to a contract that I don't think is very good? Yes, but he's got Zach Hyman. Did the Darnell Nurse thing, not really go their way, and did they play that poorly? Sure, but they kept Nuge on a bargain contract. I don't know. He was a middle-of-the-pack GM in his time here. He's not a bottom 5 GM in the league. He's far from a top 5 GM in the league. He's probably somewhere, if you had to grade every GM over the last 5 years, he's probably somewhere from 15 to 20. And if he would have been a top 10 GM, we're probably talking about Connor McDavid having a ring right now. So I'm not going to sit here and fully bash him and say he's the worst thing that's ever happened to this organization, but he's far from the best. And a different hire probably means this organization is a Stanley Cup champion at some point over the last 3-4 seasons. Is that fair?
I think saying failure is a bit harsh, to be honest. I think he did a lot of good things, and you look at the runs the Oilers had before they had one playoff appearance without him. Yeah. And then comes in, they get 5 in a row, and I know one of them is that Chicago series, so we'll call it 4.5. But yeah. I think he did the good outweighed the bad. The problem was he never won, but he was just 1-2 goals away from potentially doing that. But there was definitely moves that I think we all would have liked to have seen more of, and the contracts, some of them, like the Campbell one, of course, the Kane one isn't aging very well. Nurse kind of stranglehold in the team right now, but I think I would give him a B- overall with just the whole package. Yep. The stability he was able to bring to the team, bringing in guys like Hyman, Kulak, Ekholm, sorry. So I give him a B-, but I'm glad.
So, sorry, some people are pushing back on me. Troy's in the chat. Sorry, Tyler, you're wrong. Look at this team over the last handful of years. He did better than most in the last 20 years. That can't be the bar. The bar can't be that they don't suck anymore. The bar with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl has to be rings. Ken Holland was here for 5 years. Yes, one of the goals he accomplished was taking them from what they were at the time, a non-playoff team, and turning them back into a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. But they had to win. And his legacy is defined by that loss on Monday night. If they win that, and I guess maybe that's unfair of me. I can maybe see that angle because it was a 1-goal hockey game in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and if he wins it, his tenure here is justified, and the $25 million you gave him is more than justified, and all of that stuff. But they didn't win, and they just made their first Stanley Cup Final in the Connor McDavid era, and you need to put blame at the feet of someone. So it's not unfair. It's really not, because results matter in this game. So, Mr. Burns, I mean, the GM doesn't dictate who gets injured. The Oilers were remarkably healthy in the Ken Holland era. Remarkably healthy. And you can sit there and say, well, Draisaitl was banged up and Connor was banged up and they didn't have Evander Kane. Still, those guys were playing, and they were playing 20-plus minutes a night. The injury thing is not an excuse. I woke up and chose violence from Rusty. I don't think so. Again, we can't, with Connor McDavid, be sitting here and be saying we're okay with not having a Stanley Cup championship in year 9 heading into what'll be year 10 or whatever, or what will be year 9 of his career. Ken Holland did a lot of good. Mattias Ekholm deal, A+. Hyman deal, A+. He probably should have gone long-term with Bush. I won't give him a grade there. Nuge deal, A+ for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He made some really, really good moves. I love the Warren Foegele for Ethan Bear trade in hindsight. I was wrong about that one in the moment, but they ended up getting a 20-goal third-line scorer this season. That worked. A lot of the stuff he did was very, very good, and he put them in a spot as he leaves and is no longer the GM of this hockey team. We're heading into next year. They are the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. He deserves credit for that, but there were awful, awful misses. The Darnell Nurse contract was a terrible, terrible decision. Not going long-term with Evan Bouchard, you probably should have done that. Jack Campbell, awful, 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 awful decision. I could say awful 30 more times, and it still wouldn't even be close to what it should be. There were massive, massive misses. The wins were good. The misses were huge. And that's why I'm just saying he's a middle-of-the-pack GM. He's not a top 5, top 7, top 10 GM. He is, I think if you want to be optimistic about him, he's closer to 10. If you want to be pessimistic about him, he's closer to 20. But he's somewhere in there. I don't understand why. And flat cap didn't work his way. But guess what? Luke, and I totally understand that. Flat cap didn't work his way. 31 other teams dealt with the flat cap. It's not like it was only the Oilers dealing with a flat cap in this time. Everyone had to work through that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm spicy because I'm still upset, like Lance says. I don't think Tyler's over the loss. No, like I'm obviously not over the loss. The Oilers lost in Game 7 of the fucking Stanley Cup Final. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh boy, get them next year, guys. Like, no, that sucks. And the fact that this was the first time they got to the Stanley Cup Final in year 5 of Holland running the ship, that's not okay to me. Up until this year, they hadn't even won a game in the Western Conference Final. So I don't know. One of the best GMs of all time. He did a lot of his good GMing when there was no salary cap. So I don't know if I'm even going to fully give him a lot of love for that. Anyways, yeah, get the show up to 200 likes so I can jump in the pool and cool off. Liam, anything? Can we move on from this? Are we over it? Or do you have anything else to add?
Everyone else just gave me like a couple of sentences, but you clearly had a lot to get off your chest about it.
And I didn't even know you were going to ask me that. So that was all right off the dome. But like, I don't know. Like Liam, they're going to buy out Jack Campbell at some point in the next 48 hours.
Yep.
I'm going to be in my mid-30s by the time we're done with that buyout. That drives me bananas. We're going to have to look at the Puckpedia page for the next 6 years and look at Jack Campbell. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I do think the Cup needed to be part of this run, whenever it may be, but luckily it's over now. I guess you could say we can move on. I don't even know any of the names that are in the running for this position. It's real. I know Jeff Jackson's gonna take over for the time being and all that stuff, but it feels so strange, doesn't it, that the Oilers are gonna go into free agency in 5 days, and not have a general manager. Does that not seem extremely odd to you? Has this happened often? I don't know if I've seen this.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on because I'm kind of over the rant and all of that. Let's just get into some other stuff. Let's look ahead a little bit here because the Ken Holland era is now in the past. This is a new era for the Oilers. This is the era where they were that close to winning it all, and now they got to finish the job going forward. What do you want to do? Should we do the Short for Giant question, Liam?
Sure.
Okay, let's do the Short for Giant question. Shout out to our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant and their fantastic service department. It gets you right back on the road, whether it's through their countless bays, whether it's through their valet service or the mobile service van. And also, it's getting hot. It is summertime in Edmonton, and Sherwood Power Sports and Marine is your one-stop shop for everything you need this summer, from fishing rods and reels and tackle and boat accessories to motorcycle gear, even e-bikes. Find out more at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. Here's your giant question, Liam. Who will the Oilers' sixth defenseman be on opening day? It's a loaded one. It's a juicy one. We don't call it the giant question for nothing.
So Ekholm, Bush, Broberg, Kulak.
Those are the locks. Now the rest is where it gets a little interesting.
I really do just think they're going to have to bring Nurse back and worry about that next year when they re-sign Bouchard and his big ticket comes on. It might be easier.
Yeah.
So then I'll say they'll re-sign a guy and both Vinny and CC will be gone.
Oh, so you think there's going to be a new mix? And here's a look at their cap friendly. So I agree. I think Nurse, Ekholm, Bush, they'll be back. Kulak will be back. Broberg will be back. I think it might end up being Vinny back in that sixth spot. You got to see how free agency plays out, obviously, but that would be my pick for the sixth. I think CC, you find a way to offload it, and I mean, it might be tough to do, and maybe we'll ask Gregor about that when, I see he's actually ready to go, but maybe we'll dig into this a little bit with Jason Gregor, but that would be my pick for six. You can give me yours in the YouTube chat. Let's continue this conversation on the Star Mechanical guest line. It's Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can find out more about them online at starmechanical.ca. Residential, commercial, 24/7 emergency service. They do it all at Star Mechanical, starmechanical.ca. Let's go out to the rink where let's head out to Jason Gregor joining us now on the Star Mechanical guest line. Greg's getting ready to do his show here on Oilers Nation in about 35 minutes. Greg's, how was the locker room cleanout day? What kind of stood out to you?
Well, a few things. And sorry if my audio is not the best, but
no, you're good.
Went a little bit long. Connor Brown basically tells everybody I think he wants to be here. His heart's in Edmonton. That's not a surprise. Mattias Janmark joked, I don't think there'll be a lot of big offers. So he says there's like 3 teams probably that he'll choose from. I think he'll be back. Adam Henrique's numbers are one that, he talked about Like he's made, well, he didn't mention the number, but I looked it up. Like he's made, over $55 million, right? He wants to win. And so, he admitted that, if you're going to sign on a winning team, it's probably going to be for less. So I think they all understand the situation here amongst their UFAs. Foegele's probably the interesting one. And, it's the first time he's as a free agent. He probably owes it to himself and his family just to test the market, to see what's out there for a guy who scored 20 goals and has historically been good in the playoffs. And the fact that he's been on a team that's lost to the Cup winner 4 years in a row, like he knows heartache. So he admitted that he wants to be where he has a chance to win, and that's important to him. So that's probably what stood out the most to me is, how many of the guys really want to be back in Edmonton. And, you normally don't hear that as often, maybe because the team wasn't that close, but I think they came so close that, and even Connor McDavid said, he goes, I kind of feel a little bit weird how in previous years I said, like, we were close, we really wanted it. And experience going to the Cup Finals, like we weren't that close, but now we are. And, so it's a brutal loss for them. There's no question, gut wrenching for sure. But they feel they're close. And I think anybody watching would agree. Like the Oilers, you know what? If they're able to solve Bobrovsky in game one, maybe they win the Cup.
Maybe they win it on home ice in game 6 as well. So just maybe if I'm getting this right, if you were to rank those bottom 6 UFAs in order of most likely to return to least likely return, would it be in some order like Brown, Janmark, Henrique, and then Foegele at 4?
Yeah, probably, right? Like Henrique's the top for me because of, what he might command on the open market, even from other competitive teams. Like Edmonton, I'm very certain that they're going to put Jack Campbell on waivers and then buy him out. And with that they would have $14 million in cap space. So then you have to sign 6 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a backup goalie. Now, Calvin Pickard, I think could easily be that backup goalie if they want him. They know what he brings. He knows his role. They loved him here, so I could see that. It's not like there's a lot of other options that are going to be in the same price range. I heard you guys talk about Vinny Desharnais, and here's the thing. I looked at the right shot defenseman free agents, guys. It ain't great. Like, there's not a lot of options there. For at least for what they need, right? Like there's some top end guys, but they don't have the cap space to do that. So if you look at, what you're looking for, a third pair right defenseman who can kill penalties, there's not many better than Desharnais. But Desharnais is another guy who, this might be his one-time life-altering opportunity. So I understand if he goes to free agency and at least listens. Like Brett Kulak went to free agency a few years ago because he said, I owed it to myself to see what offers were out there. And then, were that much of a difference to not come to Edmonton. So you could do it, but that window is very short.
With the right-handed shot defenseman market the way it is, do you think that leads to an opportunity to trade a guy like Cody Ceci then?
Well, he's got 3 There's some people at Edmonton that act like Cody Ceci is the first defenseman in the league. So you might want to pump their brakes. Does he have some limitations to his game? 100%. But he's not grossly overpaid, right? He's a $3 million defenseman, 3.25. So yeah, I think there would be interest in it. And but the thing is, depth matters on the blue line more than anything else, right? And so you get rid of Ceci, then let's say you get what if you lose Desharnais and Ceci? How are you replacing them? So
yeah,
that's that it's cap wise, it probably makes sense. But it doesn't guarantee that the person you bring in, even if he's $1 million defenseman, is going to be better than Cody Ceci or even as good as Cody Ceci. So you always have to factor in everything there. I understand the cap wise thing here, and if Ceci's playing in your third pair, then he's probably too expensive to be a third pair defenseman. But it's not like Cody Ceci was actually pretty good in Dallas and the final against Florida. I beg anyone to question if Cody Ceci was an issue in those series.
So let me float you our Sherwood Ford Giant question of the day. If you had to line it up now and make your best guess, who are going to be their 6th defenseman on opening night?
Well, I think 5 are pretty obvious. I don't think they're moving Kulak, right? Broberg, no. Obviously, Nurse, Ekholm, Bouchard, no. Nurse has a full no movement clause, so it's anybody out there even expressing, hey, let's trade him. I don't see how that's going to happen. So, who's number 6? I probably would go, if I had to pick today, I might go with Desharnais, simply because I think, cap space wise, it is a cap world. And so, in right shot defense when there's not a lot of them. So Cody Ceci, you're not going to get a huge return, but you know what? I think there'll be lots of teams that would be interested in taking him on their team. And so, it's one where Edmonton's going to have to weigh it. I think, guys, that like Edmonton, what we see them start at the season on their back end is probably not where we're going to see them finish. I think their forward group might be different. I think their forward group is probably going to be more locked in. But I think we could see, maybe an addition to their blue line during the season.
So that's kind of where I wanted to go with next. How much of this offseason, I should call it the early stage of the offseason in the next 7 days here, draft, beginning of free agency, I tend to kind of think it might be quieter than we think. And maybe this is a situation where if you're the Oilers, you keep your assets like your first round pick next year and Borgo and some things like that, and wait and see what you need at the deadline. Because I don't think there's any doubt this team's going to be good enough. Even if you lose a couple of cap casualties along the way, they'll be good enough to stay competitive till the deadline. Maybe the right approach is don't go crazy in free agency. Don't go crazy making some panic trade 2 days after free agency or even at the draft, and just keep your powder dry until next year's deadline and give this group a chance to run it back a bit in the regular season.
Well, they only have 14 mil in cap space, so I don't see them going crazy even if they wanted to, just because they're not going to be big name hunting by any stretch. But I think they're going to want to fill out. I think they see the need for having really good depth, right? They were able to bring guys in and out of the lineup where it's almost seamless. I think the one thing they would look for, guys, is if they could, I think they would like, and the problem is there's none out there either. There's really no right shot centerman on the free agent market. Like, unless it's Stenlund, who I thought was excellent for Florida, but I think that guy's probably going to be able to cash in big at free agency for what his age is, what his size is, how good he is on draws. But other than that, there's not a lot of right shot centers. So I think they will probably want to ensure that they have 12, if not 13 really good NHL forwards, because injuries are going to happen during the season. And they don't now that Dylan Holloway starts here, guys, I don't really see a young forward who's ready. Like Raphael Lavoie, maybe, right? But I'm still not 100% sold that Raphael Lavoie for sure can do it. But he's really the only one, right? So after that, it's like you would have some AHL veteran guys that they might sign, right? That you could bring up, like Lane Petersons and guys like that. And that's a name. Don't overlook Lane Peterson making this team next year.
I like that. Liam, you got one more?
Yeah, obviously you had the piece out today on Oilersnation.com, and you spoke about Ken Holland. Can you just give everyone who's listening a bit of an update on where we're at with that? And also, do you have any idea who could be in the running to be the next general manager if Holland isn't around?
Well, Ken Holland, I can almost guarantee he's not going to be the GM of Edmonton next year. His contract's done. I just don't think he wants the full responsibility. It's a lot of work, right? He's had a Hall of Fame career. Now, would he like to stay in the game? I think he would. You know what? My last conversation I had, there was interest there for a consultant role, but hadn't really been able to come to an agreement on it. And my gut instinct led me to believe that he wasn't going to come back even in that role. So we'll have to see. Who will be the next GM, guys? I think it's going to be Jeff Jackson ultimately. And we might see like a restructuring as far as, he might be the president and the GM. We'll see. But I think he's going to be the quasi de facto GM, at least here for the next bit. Maybe they add someone later. I do think Jeff's going to want to bring in some of his own guys, which is normal, right? I think we will see a former NHL player coming in like a skill development situation, a pretty skilled player. So, those are kind of the changes. Their assistant GMs, Bill Scott needs a contract. These are capologists. I don't see them changing him. I think he'll get a new one. Gretzky and Brad Holland each have a year left, so I don't see any changes coming there either. But you know how it is. Like, you're going to bring in your guys. We saw it on the amateur scouting side. We've seen some pro scouts, and I think we might see a few more changes from Jackson and the management side. But I think he's going to be your de facto GM, essentially, when the offseason begins.
Greg's, appreciate your time as always, man. You're coming up live in 28 minutes on 1440 and on the Oilers Nation YouTube. Have a good show, and I'll be on that show, so I'll chat with you in a bit.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
There you go. Jason Gregor from the Jason Gregor Show on Oilersnation.com. You can read all of his work there, and he does great work at that. Shout out to Star Mechanical once again as well. I will say, Liam, just quickly on the front office kind of side of things, I think you can expect a modernization, and I'm being careful here because I'm not an insider and I don't usually try to pretend to play that game, but I think you can expect a modernization in some of the roles that they currently have. And I think some guys whose contracts are expiring may be let go in exchange for some younger, fresher views. And that is how I will word that.
Okay, I'll take you for your word. I see what you mean, though. I do think there's always been that stigma around the Oilers that it's an an old boys club, right? And it's obvious why. So maybe it would be a good thing to bring in some new, fresh ideas. The game's changing in a different way, but with that same breath, the Oilers were just one win away from this with the old boys club, I guess we'll call them.
Yep. Liam, can you get me an update on how many likes we have in the YouTube? And while you do that, I'm going to lead us into our Around the NHL report, and it is brought to you by Boston Pizza. Here in Canada, summer's short, but the list of reasons to visit a BP's patio, it's long. So make every occasion a patio occasion at Boston Pizza. Fish bowls, anybody? Liam, Lehman, get a fish bowl in you? A little patio occasion fish bowl?
I mean, this weekend, the first weekend without hockey, I think we'll all be needing some fish bowls, to be honest. A nice way to kick off the summer. And it's also Canada Day weekend. So what a perfect way to go. We have 136 likes, Tyler.
Okay, come on, everybody. If you want to see me in the pool at some point this week, we need 67 more likes. So
if you want to see it right now, we need 300.
Yeah, if it gets to 300 at any point, I'll do it the second we get to 300. But if we get 200 every day, I'll do it at the end of the show on Friday. So giddy up, everybody. 351 people in the YouTube, so we should be able to accomplish this. People, the 700 some watching on Twitter, go to YouTube. Get over to YouTube. Get off Twitter. What's wrong with you? Okay, around the NHL, Liam, that Jake Wallman deal makes no sense to me. There's no way that you couldn't have found anyone to take Jake Wallman for free. And never mind for free, attaching a second to that is bananas.
And then what is even more bananas is the fact they're now linked with John Gibson. Just doesn't make any sense to me why they would want to do that. I know they have Ville Husso and who's their other goalie? James Reimer? Is it right?
Yeah, Reimer's a UFA, though. I think Lyon's a UFA as well. And here's the thing about the Gibson acquisition, too, and you can speak to this a bit. If you're bringing in Gibson, who's a goalie with term, what are you going to do with Sebastian Cossa?
And yeah, Sebastian Cossa, your first round pick from, 2 years ago. They have obviously Carter Gylander there as well, who played for the Crusaders. It's like they actually do have some good young up and coming goalies. And it's just like we spoke about it last time, I remember, and it was the big conversation of the ISA plan and what it's all about. And it just seems like it's going in such a weird direction. I don't fully grasp the idea of what he's trying to do there. And for me, like John Gibson's game has just progressively got worse as the years have gone on. And you can say that Anaheim's bad, which they were 100% are, but Lucas also had some great games last season for Anaheim. That same people, even when they did ship guys in and out, like it didn't matter. Like he was still a decent goalie. So I think if they were able to move on from John Gibson, that'd be a huge win for the Anaheim Ducks. Change their jersey today.
Yeah. Koska Daddy had a funny tweet, and it was the Iser plan. Sign a goalie for $4.75 by 3 years, $896 save percentage. Draft 2 NHL players in 5 years, despite having top picks. Trade a second for Leddy, Justin Holl contract, Ben Sherratt contract. Trade Wallman in a second for nothing. Team hasn't made the playoffs in 5 years. Like he may have been more of a product of that system in Tampa Bay than maybe Tampa Bay was a product of him.
I mean, whoever the director of scouting was there, I don't even know who it would have been, did a fantastic job of just finding these gems, right? Palat, 7th round pick. Corrali was a 6th round pick, I believe. Obviously, Killhorn as well was late. Braden Point, 3rd round guy. Even Kucherov, like early 2nd round pick. And I know that's still like a high pick, but you're not really getting MVPs in the 2nd round very often, are you? So maybe it was just maybe luck in a weird way too. But I do think they've drafted well in Detroit as well, obviously, like Mo Seider, Lucas Raymond, high picks, but still, when they were picked, they were guys that was like, what are you doing with these guys? And now here they are a few years later trying to get John Gibson. And yeah, maybe it was a bit of a product of that system, but they were close to making the playoffs this year. But I don't know. They just don't seem like what they were supposed to be at all. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Jake Wallman was a top pairing defenseman for them next to their young star, was he not?
Yeah, he was. He was playing next to Mo Seider.
Like San Jose, good for them. Like that's a great move by Mike Greer to get him. They got Barclay Goodrow. I know his deal sucks, but he's like a good veteran guy. And didn't they just get one other? Ty Dellandrea as well was the other one, right?
Yeah.
They've had a decent
in Detroit.
No, to San Jose.
Oh, yeah, the San Jose, yeah.
And I mean, you're going to get Macklin Celebrini if he comes this season or not. Either way, you get Will Smith. It's like they're actually putting together like a respectable group to try and win more games there and build up that fan base again.
And I think Celebrini accelerates that. You don't want to have him be on a dumpster fire right from the start of his career. You want to show him you're ready to go, right? So that's a big part of it. Hopefully the music's not too loud. They just cranked it up for whatever reason here. But let's continue along with the show, Liam. We only got about 15 minutes left here. Let's get to our rumor report. It's brought to you by Horse Racing Alberta. Exciting live thoroughbred racing at Century Mile every Friday at 6:15 and every Saturday at 3:45. For more information, you can go to thehorses.com. And the way I want to spin this, Liam, is some of the rumors about just the Oilers and potentially returning. AB, lead me into it with some of the quotes we heard at locker room cleanout day. Leon Draisaitl on his contract situation. He's obviously eligible to sign that on July 1st. He says he's going to take some time to figure out what I want and what the Oilers want. He adds, I love being an Oiler more than anything. And I think that's true. And if you would allow me to do a totally unjournalistic integrity thing and put words in Leon's mouth, I think he also loves being Connor McDavid's teammate more than anything. So I think that's obviously a massive factor in all this. I have pretty much zero doubts that this thing's going to get done, and it's going to get done this summer. It might not be July 1. It won't be July 1. It might not be July 7. It might not be July 31st. It might take till August. But Leon Draisaitl, I would be willing to put a considerable amount of my own money on him signing an 8-year extension this summer at some point with the Edmonton Oilers.
I'm really not concerned about this at all. Again, the Oilers were so close to winning it all this season. Where is he going to go where he would have a better chance of doing it, you know? And I know it's 1 year away and everything, and maybe things can change, but you're not going to get a better player to play with than Connor McDavid, and that's got to be part of his decision at the end of the day. And he also said he loves playing here, and I truly believe that because Leon does not mince his words very often at all.
Yeah. Who do we got next, baby? Nuge? Nuge. It's the most proud I've been to be an Edmonton Oiler. Mwah. Love you, Nuge. Good one. He's a beautiful human being, and we're very lucky he's going to be an Oiler for his whole career. Mattias Janmark had this to say: at this stage of my career, it's all about winning, and leaving Edmonton would be very hard for him. He's coming back, baby. I think the term of this deal is going to anger some people, but I think it'll be something like 3 by 1, 3 by 1.2.
It is what it is, right? I mean, he's played really well in the playoffs, and Gregor wrote in his article too, again, which you can go read at Oilersnation right now. When do you ever see him make mistakes? Like, he's just consistent the whole time. He's not really having these egregious giveaways. He's good on the penalty kill. I know we don't love it, but you can spot him into the top 6 if it ever gets to that. Like, he's just a reliable player, and he's a guy you would want around. And heck, if you're paying him $3 million for $1 million for 3 years, and it is what it is. I'm not gonna put any damage on this franchise, right? He's still rather young. Isn't he only like 32?
Pardon?
He's only like 32, right?
Yeah, something like that. So let's get to a couple of them from Connor Brown. He said, last summer I was rehabbing. This summer I'll be training. I love hearing that, because I really do think, and Liam, we spoke to him at the Stanley Cup Finals. He wasn't comfortable. He said nothing. He said everything wasn't working. Mind, hands, feet wasn't working together until the trade deadline. And that's when we saw him really take a step forward. He will be better next year, and I want him to be an Oiler so bad. One, the bonus stings way less if he is an Oiler, and if you still have the player, maybe he can get you 15 goals next year, and that would be absolutely massive. He said, my heart's here. It's a really special place to play. I don't think this guy's going anywhere. I fully expect, I would honestly say, another 1-year deal for him here in Edmonton. I don't think they'll go with term. I mean, he's only 30 years old, and Janmark, by the way, is 31. I could see Brown going, give me 1 more year, give me $1 million. I'm back. I'm going to score 15 goals, and next summer I'm getting a 3 by 2.5 somewhere, or 3 by 2.25 somewhere.
Yeah, I think this next year just has to be, like you said, a year for him to build up his contract again. Because, look, yes, the playoffs was fantastic, and the end of the season was fantastic, but he was not good enough to crack this lineup like night 1 of the playoffs. It took, I think, 6 games to get him back into the team, and then he never let it go from there. So he's got to have a good season. If it's 10 goals, 15 goals, 12 goals, whatever it may be, like, he's going to be a significant contributor to the bottom 6. I don't think they need to force him into the top 6, but similar to Janmark, push comes to shove, you have another guy there, and it's called depth that you can elevate up the lineup. And that penalty kill, if he even touches 83% next season, I think I'll be thrilled with what they're able to do just after what they just came off of. Like, it's obviously going to go down, but Brown, Janmark, the rest of the gang, even Foegele have played a huge role in it, but Janmark and Brown, that's what makes them fan favorites.
Joel is in and just said, where was Joel's comment? I lost it. Oh, he said third line, we'll all sign at Edmonton IMO. And that's what I've been saying. Joint press conference, all three at once. Let's get it done. Vinny Desharnais, obviously his future with the team up in the air. He said, hopefully I'll have at least one call. If not, I'll take what I can get. He's a pending UFA. Connor Brown says you'll have some calls, but he'll have some interest. And I've heard that there are teams who like Vinny Desharnais a lot more than others. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get medium term, medium in the twos. Like we're talking 2.5 to 2.7 on like a 2-3 year deal. I could see a team being willing to offer him that. But again, free agency, you never know, because sometimes you play your cards the wrong way. You say no to one offer. Another team gets a sense you're not going to say no to that offer. They move on, then they move on, and you're kind of stuck without a chair in the game of musical chairs that can be free agency. So, anyways, we'll see what ends up happening with Vinny here. Let's keep cruising along with the show, Liam. We're going to play a new little summer game we're going to do here on the show. It is called Would You Rather, and it's brought to you by our friends at Douglas Mattress. The worst part of being on the road all this time is that I'm not sleeping on my Douglas. You can sleep as good as I do when I'm at home by ordering today at douglas.ca/OilersNation. They are handcrafted right in Edmonton, so you're supporting a fantastic local company. And right now, every mattress order comes with a free Comfort Sleep Bundle. You get 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, 1 luxurious cotton sheet set, and 1 mattress protector free with any mattress order. Liam, I have tasked you with coming up with our Would You Rather question.
I have 3 quick ones, if that works for you.
Whoa, you don't want to save any for tomorrow?
Okay, I have 1.
Okay.
Okay, we may as well just stay on the topic of players coming in and out. Would you rather re-sign Warren Foegele, or they went out and added a new fresh body?
I think I'll do a new fresh body, and we'll dig into Frank Saravalli's free agent list a little bit later on in the week, probably tomorrow or Friday, if we're being honest. And maybe I'll come up with who my replacement is. But I think Warren Foegele, coming off 20 goals and a 4-game point streak in the Stanley Cup Final, that really reestablished his value. I think he might just get a little bit too rich for my blood. I like the player, but I like the player at 2.75. I'm not going to like the player at 3.5, and he might get 3.5.
Yeah, the expectations just become too high for him if he got a raise, and the Oilers just can't afford that kind of player right now. They kind of have it in Evander Kane, right, where you need a little bit more already. And I know he kind of plagued him here and there, but for me, I'm with you. I like Warren Foegele a lot. I was team Foegele at the deadline, saying that he could be the guy that if they played him in the top 6, he'd be able to succeed. And he actually did when they finally played him in the top 6. But I just don't see a scenario where they can try and re-sign him. I think he could even be one of the guys that maybe lingers around free agency for a while, and then just cap comes down a little bit. Maybe that's what would benefit him coming back to Edmonton, but I just don't see it. We just hit 200 likes.
You guys hit 200 likes. Good job. You got to do it 2 more days, though, if you want me to jump in the pool on Friday. So make sure you come back the rest of the week when we continue our draft shows here on Oilers Nation every day. I'm trying to think of what kind of team's even going to target Warren Foegele. Like, I think it's a pretty... Who?
Chicago, San Jose, Anaheim.
I could see Chicago liking Warren Foegele. I mean, he's a great room guy, right? Like, his teammates absolutely love him. I wonder about a team like Buffalo, maybe. Slide him into their top 9. I know there's talk that they might buy out Jeff Skinner. I think that is absolutely insane.
Would that be a replacement?
I would be very, very in on Jeff Skinner being an Oiler next year, and on that little bounce back, like OEL of the forward group, right? Like, he went to Florida, expectations dropped, and it was like, shit, this guy's actually really good. Jeff Skinner would do that here. If they buy him out, give me Jeff Skinner. I would even give him term, dude. I would give him 3x3 in like a heartbeat. He probably gets more than that, but maybe you can sell Jeff Skinner on coming to Edmonton. He's a 25 goal guy. He might be a 30 goal guy in this Oilers lineup. I love Jeff Skinner. Has he actually been put on waivers already?
No, but
there was like a vague report, but no insider actually confirmed it.
I think Friedman said it.
Oh, really?
I'm sure that's where I saw on 32 Thoughts that he said he would do that. Or they would think about doing it. Jeff Skinner, over 1,000 games played, never played a playoff game, 357 goals. Obviously had that bit of a slump where he had 14 one season, 7 the next, but consistent 20-plus goal guy. Yep. I understand why Buffalo would maybe want to move on from him, but also in the same breath, like, I don't know if I'd be so quick to do that.
No, I think it's dumb. They have $24 million. They should be able to make their offseason work without strapping themselves to what is just an ugly, ugly buyout. There you go. That was Would You Rather for our friends over at Douglas Mattress. We got a couple more things to get to. First off, need to remind you, the Oilers Nation Open, it's happening. It's happening. We're back. It's coming up on September 1st, and it's out at the Millwoods Golf Course. Millwoods Golf Course features private club conditions for under $100. The greens are always immaculate. It's great stuff in their pro shop, fully stocked with loads of local clothing lines. Follow them at Millwoods GC or visit them online, millwoodsgolfcourse.ca. Shout out to Millwoods. I'm excited to be back in the tournament this year. Fired up. And I'm hearing a rumor that I might be playing with a former NHLer who's coming into the tournament as well. So stay tuned for a little bit more on that. Liam, it is draft week here down in Las Vegas. It is currently 40 degrees. I'm sweating through my shirt. I didn't pack enough because I thought it would be a bad omen. Because the plan was, like, I flew in last night. I got to Vegas at like 5:30. I had a flight home to Edmonton booked at 8:30 because if they would have won, I would have been back to cover what would have been a Stanley Cup parade either today or tomorrow. I end up sticking around here, but I thought it would be a bad omen to pack like the Oilers were going to lose. So I packed like they were going to win and I was coming home tomorrow. So I'm out of clothes.
So what are you going to do? Because I've been in that situation before, not because I believed in the Oilers, but because I didn't do my laundry.
That was also hilarious when we went to, I think that was Dallas, and you were just like, you had like a Blue Jays jersey and 3 soccer kits, and you're like, I didn't have time to do laundry before I left. This is all I had.
That was it. That was a quick turnaround, that trip.
It was funny. It was. But there's what do you call them? The malls where everything's cheap, outlet malls. There's an outlet mall like 2 minutes away from here. So I'm going to go get to work on that. And I need to buy some new clothes. I'm also going to be on to Gregor in a little bit. I want to wrap up. We got 3 minutes left in the show. Liam, let's talk a little bit of bets for our friends at Betway. It is the draft, and with Betway, you can bet on the draft, correct? Also, let me get the ad read part of this out of the way. You can get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses by heading to Betway. Simply create a new account, place a wager, no minimum amount required, and if you lose, you'll get a free bet up to $200 to keep betting on your favorite sports. How do you sign up? You scan the QR code that's coming up on your screen in just a second here. There you go. Bang. Liam, you got any draft bets you like?
I have one for today, and I'll keep getting them throughout the week here too as we get close to the draft. But there's Anaheim Ducks of the 3rd overall pick. And the last few years, they got Leo Carlson, Mason McTavish, and they're trying to build that spine down the middle. And although they've got some players on the blue line, and they also got Cutter Gauthier, didn't they, recently too?
Yeah.
I'm going to try and say this name, and hopefully you can correct me when I absolutely butcher it. But Artyom Levshinov, 3rd overall. He's the number one projected defenseman in the draft. Plays for Michigan State. I believe he's Belarusian. Plus 260 to go. 3rd overall to the Anaheim Ducks.
He was ranked 3rd by Stephen Ellis.
And there you go. So Stephen Ellis is backing me up. I don't know. I can't see Anaheim picking another forward, but then again, we didn't see them picking Leo Carlson last year. There's other good defensemen in the draft too, but I think he would be the number one. And plus 2, you have the college part of it as well, of a guy that can go sign there, and you can keep him an extra year in college for those of you who don't know. I don't think he'll linger that long in there, but it's an option if they ever needed it. And with him being from outside of North America, California is a pretty good spot to be at.
So Ellis has Levshinov ranked 3rd in his rankings. In his mock draft, he has him going 2 to Chicago. I think he'll go 2 to Chicago. I would take a peek if you're interested in betting in that 3rd one. You can get plus money. Bet on both Demidov and Levshinov, and they'll take one of them. And I think they're both like plus 270 to plus 375. So I'd like a tandem play there for our friends at Betway. 19 plus. Please play responsibly.
Can you bring up the board again quickly, Aaron? Sorry. Because Betway has Deminov. Oh, I don't think it's Deminov. I'll have to pull it up quickly, but he's the favorite to go third overall. And I think
really?
it's like plus 150.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. It's Anton Silyev plus 125. What's the guy's name? Levashinov.
Yeah.
Plus 260. And Demidov is plus 450. But that one fella isn't on Steven's top 7 list.
Yeah, give me Demidov at the 3 spot. I think it's a good spot. All right, that is a wrap, gentlemen. Liam, thank you for holding it down back in E-Town. I appreciate that. AB, good producing. Liam, we're going to be back tomorrow. Again, we're pushing the show an hour later just because we're in a shared studio space. Leafs Morning Take goes right up until what is 1 o'clock Mountain Time. So that's why we're doing the 1 o'clock shows. I'm going to give away Pinder's out here. He's rocking an electric mint colored San Diego Padres hat. He's got a matching little jumpsuit thing going on. The Barn Burner guys are going to have a ton of fun. But Liam, I'm going to go enjoy Vegas. I'm going to go get myself some clean clothes. You enjoy your day back in E-Town. And everybody in the YouTube chat, enjoy the day in Edmonton. We're going to get through this. Every day we're going to get better. Every day we're going to believe in this team more. And we'll be here to talk you through it all summer. Thanks for tuning in to our draft show brought to you by Fountain Tire, live from Circa Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Mountain. See you then. Oil up.
Goodbye.
Thank you for watching Oilers Nation Every Day. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit OilersNation.com.